On a typical Saturday morning at the Willow Creek Farmers Market, an elderly vendor named Harold Benson was selling his famous homemade jams. At 78, Harold was a veteran, a gentleman with silver hair and sparkling eyes. Known affectionately as Old Harold, he'd been selling his family recipe jams here for over 20 years. His stand was simple, but his jams were legendary. That morning, a loud, impatient young couple approached his stand. They immediately started criticizing everything: the display, the prices, the very authenticity of his work. "Are these really homemade?" the woman scoffed, tapping a jar. "I can get this at the supermarket for half the price." Harold smiled politely. "Ma'am, every jar is made by hand right here. No shortcuts, no preservatives." The man sneered back. "Handmade or not, it's still overpriced. Your whole setup just looks outdated." A few shoppers nearby grew uncomfortable. They knew Harold's story, his service, and the horrors he'd survived. Now he was being belittled for simply selling his craft. A regular customer tried to defend him, but the couple ignored her, their voices rising as they laughed at the old man struggling with jars. Harold stayed calm, but the air grew tense. With practiced ease, his hands retrieved a jar of his signature wildberry jam. "This is my best batch," he said softly, his gaze steady. "It's not just jam. Each jar has a story, a recipe my father taught me, perfected over 70 years. Maybe you'll taste the difference, maybe you won't, but I promise it's made with honesty." The couple just snickered. "We don't need stories. We just need good deals," the woman snapped. "Move along, Grandpa." Something in Harold's eyes shifted. It wasn't anger, but a quiet, unyielding resolve. "You know," he began, his voice firm, "I once walked through enemy lines in a foreign country with nothing but my wits and a few scraps of food. I survived days when most would have given up, and I kept my promise to my unit to get back safely. I came home, and now I spend my days making jam and sharing it with neighbors who appreciate it. So I think I can handle a little criticism from people who haven't faced what I have." The market fell silent. The couple's laughter died. They had expected a meek old man, not someone whose quiet confidence hinted at a life they couldn't possibly imagine. Harold hadn't raised his voice. He just let the weight of his dignity and his past do the talking. A hush fell over the crowd, and many shoppers nodded in silent respect. The woman looked away, completely embarrassed. We didn't mean," she stammered. Harold shook his head gently. "It's all right. But maybe next time, think twice before mocking someone's life's work." The couple quickly walked away, muttering excuses. Harold turned back to his stand, arranging his jars and offering a taste to a curious child. The tension was gone. A young boy tugged at Harold's sleeve. "Mister, were you really in the army?" Harold crouched down and chuckled. "Yes, son. And I learned something very important. No matter where life takes you, always stand tall. Always keep your integrity. And sometimes the smallest victories, like making someone's breakfast a little sweeter, mean more than you think." By the end of the day, Harold's stand had more customers than ever before. People bought his jam not just for the taste, but for the story, the courage, and the quiet strength behind the man who made it. Old Harold reminded everyone that day that age doesn't diminish honor, and true respect is always earned, not demanded. On this simple market day, dignity and patience had won yet another battle. Thanks for watching. If this story moved you, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content that inspires. See you next time.